We are here with Eric Bloom from Blue Oyster Cult, and they are going
How
to be
you doing?
performing at the Rialto Theater here in Tucson on December 28th. And you play here a lot, and I've seen you a ton of times here in Tucson, and you always put on a stellar show. Looking forward to your concert at the end of the year.
We're looking forward to being there. We like to play.
Yeah, I've seen you a few times, and I know that you're also good friends with our night guy Alice Cooper, because you played his Christmas pudding show a few years ago.
Yeah, that was fun. And something that was our first real tour, I would say in 1972. We opened for Alice, and that was the beginning of our career, really.
Wow, and that was like 50 years ago. And I understand you just recorded a few nights at in New York City, a 50th anniversary CD or DVD or something like that.
Yeah, without going into a long-winded story, because it sort of is. There's a theater in New York called the Sony Theater, which is an intimate theater, and right off Times Square. And we did 3 nights last fall, and each night was the first night was the first album, plus a set of deep tracks after a break. Then the second night was the second album in its entirety, and then the third same thing with after, and then a break, and then deep tracks, and then the third night was the third album in its entirety, and then a short break, and then deep tracks. So people flew in from all over the place. People came from Europe and Australia and all over the place for this. We have a lot of hardcore fans, and most people came for all 3 nights.
So they made a whole like week of it.
Yeah, well, 3 days of it
Yep.
anyway. And then it was recorded, it was videotaped, and our wunderkind Richie Castellano, who's our keyboard and guitar player, has been in the band 18 years or so, and he and our manager Steve mixed it, and it is December 8th is the release of the first night
Hmm.
on the obvious vinyl, Blu-ray, blah blah blah, all that, and it's coming out December 8th. The second one will be out sometime early next year, and the third one will be out later next year.
Did you, when you first started this, you mentioned the tour with Alice Cooper 50 odd years ago. Did you still think back then, were you thinking that this would be a life career for you?
I get asked that a lot. The answer is, you never know what's going to happen, and I had maybe a couple of other jobs, but I mean, if it's 53 years, Donald and I have been working together at Buck
Hmm.
Dharma, and you never know. I mean, the earliest days, I don't know how long a piece you want to make this,
Oh, sure.
because there's 50 plus years to talk about, and it's a short interview, so it's hard to get in
Yeah,
50 years
true, true, true.
worth of chat. But I met Buck, and before he was Buck, in a music store. So how are you going to know that that chance meeting is going to turn into the rest of your life? Um, Strange things happen to you, and you never know where it's all going to lead.
So when you met him, did you guys just, was it a fast friendship right away? Because obviously you've been friends for life.
Um, I was working in the music store, and I was the salesman that sold them a bunch of amps and keyboards and stuff. And the Sam Ash Music Store in Hempstead, New York, which that store doesn't exist, but Sam Ash is a major chain of music stores.
Hmm.
And um, I had been in other bands, and to make a long story short, um, we had exchanged information, and because it's too long a story, but um, Soft White Underbelly, which is the earlier name of Blue Oyster Cult, was playing a gig um, Thanksgiving night of 1968. And they got in touch with me to come and do sound for them because the sound in the venue they were playing wasn't good. And they'd known that I had a van and I had a PA from our chat that day. And so I came in and did the sound for them that night at the Electric Circus, which is in Greenwich Village. I did the sound, and we partied a little together that night. And Sandy Pearlman, who's the band's mentor, asked me if I'd like to move into the band house and do their, you know, work for them. And 3 or 4 months later, one of the guys in the band heard some tapes of me from my previous bands, and they had a falling out with their vocalist and asked me if I'd like to join. And that was in about April of '69. And here we are.
And here we are 50 years later. So you guys have such a huge catalog of music. And I know this is like asking who your favorite child is, but is there a particular song that you guys play or that you've had in your catalog over the years that just to this day you can't wait to play it? It's just something that is your favorite song. Or is there a
I
couple
don't,
of songs like that?
well, obviously we played, we've had two actual quote unquote hits.
Mm-hmm.
And the third song, I mean, Godzilla was never a hit, but we have to play it every night. And obviously, Don't Fear the Reaper and Burning for You, which Buck wrote. And, we play them every night, and the audience is in anticipation of playing those songs. But, we have a lot of deeper tracks that I'm always glad to whip out. I write the set list, and sometimes it's fun. There's sometimes if we get we all live in different cities,
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard to rehearse. So we have to take a long sound check to go over stuff. So I might text everybody during the week when we're all home, say, go over such and such a song, and we get a sound check. Then we'll run it down. So some songs are fun to whip out of the catalog and run it down on the sound check and then play it in the show.
So do you do
Um,
a different set list every night, or is it the same main chords, or
it
you
might
switch it up?
it might be the same framework, but I try to some songs we might play for like a couple of months and then it'll drop out and I'll put in something else just to keep our own sanity. And also, some fans come to a lot of shows, and I know, from reading Facebook and different things, they say, "Why do they keep playing that song?" So and I'll read it. So, um, I'll be aware of that and change it up.
So you mentioned, you've got a lot of fans who go to multiple shows. Obviously, when you're on stage, the lights are hitting you, so you have a hard time sometimes seeing into the crowd. But do you often go to, look out and you go, man, I've seen that guy for like 30
Oh,
years or
oh
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. There's one particular guy, Miller. He's been to close on to 600 shows. Yeah. And matter of fact, I got a fast Miller story. Miller, if you're listening, he's from around Westchester, New York, which is just north of New York City. We're playing a tour of Europe, I guess in the 80s, Monsters of Rock and a whole bunch of other shows. And there's Miller. I said, so Miller, what the hell are you doing here? In Germany. And he goes, I'm not going to repeat the way he speaks, but because I could do a good Miller. But 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 he says, well, my mom told me that I could have a new car, or I could get, he said I'd rather have tickets to go to Europe to see Blue Oyster Cult. So so there he was on tour. So we gave him a tour pass and let him get into every show. It was like a long run of 20 plus shows all through Europe. So he's an interesting guy. He comes to a lot of our shows.
That had to make his his day.
Oh yeah, he's a really good guy.
And so it sounds like you've actually made some friendships with some of your fans over the years
Oh,
then.
absolutely. I got another actually very good, almost lifelong friend who's a school principal in Albuquerque who was a fan, who was a gangbanger and did 12 years or so in the army, and then um, used the GI Bill to educate himself and became a school principal and is about to retire.
Oh, wow.
I know a lot of the hardcore fans you get to know over the years.
That's got to be a good feeling for them too, because a lot of time, the rock stars are a little untouchable, and but over the years, you get to you look in the crowd, you see some of the familiar faces.
Oh, absolutely. And then every once in a while, you go for a drink after the show and, you hang out with some of these people.
So, over the years, you guys have been known for some fantastic live performances. Do you have a favorite like concert memory, a favorite venue that you've played?
Um, yeah, plenty, there's some crazy venues over the years that some of which aren't around anymore, Um, probably one of the more memorable ones, even though we weren't very good, was Fillmore East, which is a classic venue in New York City where wasn't open that long, only a couple of years. And that was my first show, which was July 3rd, 1969. And it's just when I joined the band.
Hmm.
So we gimmicked up some stage clothes and we're playing Phil Maurice, the opening act. It's before BOC, we were Soft White Underbelly. So it was my first show. Remember, I was the stand-in for the guy who was leaving, so I was just put in the band, and we're opening for the Jeff Beck group
Oh, wow.
when Rod Stewart was the lead singer for the Jeff Beck group, and they were the opening act, two shows, and playing Phil Maurice. Now I've been going to Phil Maurice as a fan, so there I am on that stage. I used to be in the seats. So that was pretty memorable. And Jeff Rotella was the middle act.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was pretty awesome gig. That's very memorable. So I still have the program from that show
Oh, you do?
on file. It was advertising in the middle for Woodstock. Woodstock hadn't happened yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which
And
I
you,
went to, by the way, on the motorcycle.
oh, you went to Woodstock?
I went to Woodstock. Yeah,
Who was your favorite performer that day?
had to be Jimmy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to play with him, or was he?
No,
No,
never
he was
played with.
already gone by that time you got.
No, I saw Jimmy play.
Oh, you did? Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
did you ever get a chance to like meet him or anything? But apparently, I think probably already
Uh,
gone by the time.
I do have a good Jimmy story, but I don't know how long your interview wants
Sure.
to go.
No, that's fine. I'd love to hear it.
Well, there used to be a club in New York City called Steve Paul's Scene, which is a pretty famous club, and we played there on the cheap, $50, by the way. And there used to be Steve Paul was a uh, he became the Winter Brothers manager. He brought Johnny Winter up from Texas and became his manager, and so Johnny was playing there when the first Winter album came out. You might remember that, or if you played it on the radio. It was a trio. It was just called Winter, his first album. And we had played there, so we got in free. And it was in a sort of like a basement in the 40s in Manhattan. And having played there, the guy who ran the place, Steve Paul didn't actually run it, he owned it. And there was a manager guy who ran the place, and both of which have passed. And so having played there, I went down and came in. I just wanted to see Winter play. So I got in and I'm hanging out. And I knew the people who worked there. So I'm just hanging around. And the place was pretty full and not a very big place. And having, shall we say, toked down a little bit with some other of the people there. And I can't tell this whole story because it's too long. But to make a long story short, they did two sets. So having some mind-altering things with the people in the band and other people um, between sets. Um, I'm standing on the side of the stage, on stage right, watching the show.
Hmm.
I get a tap on my shoulder, and I swear to you, swear that this is a true story. I get a tap on my shoulder, like this, and it's Jimmy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I didn't know him. He was not my friend. I'm not saying Jimi Hendrix was my pal, but around New York, if you were in the club scene, he used to hang out and be there. So I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" kind of thing. I didn't know him, but he taps me on the shoulder. He says to me, as if I had any power there. I had none. He says to me because I'm standing on the edge of the stage just watching, and he says, "Hey, man, do you think it would be all right if I got up there and jammed?" As if I had any say in it. I didn't. And I said, "Jimmy, it would be all right with me," quote unquote. So he walked around and got on stage, picked up the bass, and turned the bass upside down because he played righty instruments left-handed, and stayed up there with Johnny Winter and the drummer. It was a trio. Never sang because there's some internet videos saying Jimi Hendrix sang that night. He did not. I was there.
Hmm.
And About 3 or 4 songs in, Buddy Miles came out of the audience and played drums.
Oh, wow.
And then a couple of songs later, a friend of Johnny Winter's played electric violin. He came out of the audience, played electric violin. And then a couple of other people came up who were in a variety of different bands, came up and jammed, came up and sat down. Then it was about an hour and change of just blues. And
Wow.
Jimi played upside down right-handed bass for the whole thing, never sang,
Wow.
just blues. Yeah, and there's a picture of it. I have it on my computer of me standing on the side of the stage while Jimmy's playing bass.
And you gave him permission.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true story, and that's indelibly etched in my brain.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Eric, what can people expect on the 28th here in Tucson when Blue Oyster Cult hits the Rialto Theater?
Well, it's all the above, a little bit. We put out a new album in 2020,
Hmm.
so a little bit of that. So the album was called The Simple Remains. A lot of people thought it was the best hard rock album of 2020. So we play a couple of songs from that, and then stuff from the catalog. I'll be obviously playing the songs people want to hear, the big three, and then a sprinkling of stuff from. I mean, we might play songs like Tattoo Vampire. We might play, um, Dancing in the Ruins, or a variety of stuff going all the way back.
Do you ever play the Marshall Plan?
Not lately.
Not lately? That's one of my
That
favorite songs by you guys. So
Yeah, that's an interesting song. Actually, we were working that song up, and the late Alan Lanier, who we all miss, he sort of put those lyrics together. And there's a quick anecdote on that song. I don't know if your listeners even know that song because it's kind of a deep track. But
I play it on occasion, so they know it.
yeah, well, there's the little bit in the middle with Don Kirshner,
Hmm.
who also left this world, but he was a good guy. We had the idea. Well, there's the story about Johnny, how he lost his girlfriend, and makes it onto Don Kirshner's rock concert. So so I called uh, what's his name? Used to he was on Paul Schaefer. Paul Schaefer used to be the musical director of SNL,
Hmm.
and he would do a gag thing that like Don Kirshner. So I
Hmm.
called Paul Schaefer and I said, "Will you do Don Kirshner for us, on this song?" And do call Don Kirshner himself. He's a big ham. He'd be glad to do it. So, and he says, I don't want to be known for doing that. He says, call Don Kirshner. So I called his office, and he calls me back, and he says, yeah, the only thing I want, is I want a teleprompter. I said, Don, it's one line. He says, no, I want a teleprompter. So we rented a teleprompter, and he did it. He was very good natured about it. And I had to go up to his office to pitch this to him. So I went up to his office, and he is a very, very famous man. I mean, all the, his history of, all the, he's the one who made all those great songs for the Monkees, and back in rock history, he should be etched in gold, all the fabulous songs he put together. But his office was all shag carpet. You got to remember how long ago this was.
70s.
Yeah. His office was all shag carpet, and he had two huge, gigantic A7 speakers in his office, and they were all carpeted over, the same as the carpet. You
Wow.
know, so there was shag carpet, and then this a big A7 speakers were all shag carpeted over, like the
It
rest of the room.
kind of sounds like Graceland for Elvis.
Yeah, but he was a great man,
And he
and he
did
did.
it.
Yeah, he did the voiceover, which you can hear and see in the video also.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs by you guys, and I don't think I've
Oh.
actually seen you perform it live. So I just
We
thought
we did when it was new, but not since. But then thanks. So now I'll see if it's possible to work that up. But
well,
not
cool.
we would really have to rehearse that.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I understand that. So, Eric, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I just a little side note. back in '86 is when I got into radio, and I was working at another station in Phoenix, Arizona, and my first radio interview was with you.
Okay. Yeah,
So way back when.
did I do okay?
Oh, you did great. I was, this 20-something-year-old kid interviewing you, and I get to interview the singer of Blue Oyster Cult, and they're like, yeah, you get to. Scared to death, but you made it very, very cool to me. So thank you so much for that first
I
interview
got
experience.
I got stories, I guess.
Nope, it was fantastic. I remember you were actually at a hotel talking on the side of the pool, talking to me on the phone. I remember
Okay.
you were telling me that. I think it was after the show or something like that. But
It could be.
But Eric, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. Looking for the show. It's going to be December 28th here in Tucson at the Rialto Theater. Tickets available at klpx.com and at the Rialto Theater's website, and of course the Blue Oyster Cult's website. Any other stuff coming up, like any besides the DVD and all that with the live shows out of New York?
Well, without giving anything away, we have those three discs coming out, which is also going to be DVD, it's going to be video. I guess it's going to be streaming and all the obvious Spotify type streaming services. And so December 8th is the first one. Like I said, the second one early next year, the third one later in the year. Then we're going to have, I'll say, a mystery release sometime next year
Oh, I look forward to hearing it.
of something.
Oh, okay. So, I wonder what's going to be. I'm sure stuff will leak out as we get closer to it, as you guys often do, which will be nice.
Yeah.
Well,
And then let's see. I think that's it. And then we're just starting to get some bookings into 24. So watch blueoystercult.com for that.
definitely. And you guys are all over social media as well.
We try. I'm on Facebook, and yeah, but really, I don't talk about music very much. My last poster is about UFOs.
Oh, okay. But
Not
people
the
can still, no, not the band.
Although they're friends of mine.
But you know what, Eric? I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I can't count. I've seen you guys a multitude of times. I can't even think about how many times I've seen Blue Oyster Cult in concert. So I'm looking forward to the show at the end of the year. It'll be a great way to wrap up the year here in Tucson.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And I think from there we go to Vegas for our last show of the year on the 30th.
Oh, and then back home.
I guess I don't think anything will be dropped after that. And then we're just starting to look into 24 and see what's up.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the 28th.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.